down. I'd like to introduce Mr. McCollough, who is our CEO.
我就向大家介绍一下Mr. McCollough， 他是我们的执行总裁。
He's been the superintendent from 3 different districts, assistant principal in one more beyond. So, superintendent in 3 different districts in the U.S.
OK， 他的指导会接管3个地区。
I'm going to be conducting most of the discussion, but Mr. McCollough will be interjecting as he has expertise in this area.
OK， 我将就是主持我们中间的讨论，但是因为这个我要保留的。我没有多余的时间，不好意思。就是我将给大家主持我们中间的讨论，但是那个Mr. McCollough 先生会给那个我们介绍总体的状况，因为他更了解这个全景。
And it's going to be two people are going to be talking. Albert's going to talk about the teacher certification process and how people become teachers.
一方面我们就会说，就是这个一个人他怎么成为老师的这个过程。
And then I'll be talking about the practical end, how it's applied on the front lines. I've been a teacher, a principal, and a superintendent director of a school district with lots of schools.
而 McCollough 先生呢，他会说一些那个实践方面的内容，因为他事实上他就是在第一线当过老师，当过校长，而且现在在指导3个学期的工作。
So I'll be here to help with the practical application of what Albert's talking about.
所以他会说那个申请成为一个老师的实际过程的那个。
And Albert and I both work for the American board. As he said, I'm the CEO and Albert is the COO, so we work together for the American board, and we're happy to be here.
那么就是像陈先生所说的，他们是在那个美国的这个教师认证委员会工作，然后他是属于那种执行总裁，然后他是属于反正就也是这种官员性质的内容，所以他们是在一起来做这方面的工作。
So first, I'd like to ask, what is it that you would like to hear about?
那么在最开始的时候，我想问一下大家，你们究竟想知道什么？
What types of jobs do you all do, as far as just related to education, related to schools? It would help us.
All
Principals of schools?
Headmasters.
Yeah.
Headmasters? My kind of people. I used to be a headmaster of a school also. So they're all headmasters?
Yeah, they're all.
Can you tell them what I said, that they're my kind of people?
OK 他说你们和他做的是一样的工作，然后就是在教育的最前线，然后是校长，然后他很高兴。他说他就是美国的你们。
It's a very challenging job here. I'm sure it's very challenging in China also.
他说这是一个挑战，在这里他这个当校长是一个挑战性很高的工作，那么他肯定在中国这也是一个挑战性很高的工作。
So I guess we can talk about how people become teachers here. And what we'd like to talk about today are 2 different routes to becoming a teacher. A traditional route and an alternative point over the last 10 years where we're changing the way people become teachers, making it easier and more fitting for the changing workplace and the changing educational.
And this Saturday, this morning we have discussed about the big picture of the creating teacher and how to become teachers, and they want to know some concrete steps about this process. And besides this, they want to know how to manage a teacher and how should the principal do to make the teacher better and how to train the teacher and this kind of things. Yeah.
We can certainly answer that. My question before we start is, when you talk with the professor works differently than we do. We do alternative teacher certification, and that means that we have a different way of training teachers. And I'm curious if they talked about that this morning, or did they talk about the traditional university route?
Yes, kind of. Yes, the traditional is
Traditional.
Yeah.
Traditional with the bachelor's program, the 4-year degree,
Yes.
and then the master's program, an additional 2-year degree. If
Yes,
you're
and the
an academic.
majors and minors.
Okay.
度和今天上午教授的角度是不一样的，因为今天他们就是更实际的那种认证老师的过程，而教授他主要就说的是那个传统怎么样成为一个老师，比如说4年的大学啊，2年的研究生啊，拿到学位啊，去成为一个老师是这样方面的内容，所以还是有些不一样的。
So, and just for the sake of the discussion, I think we'd like to talk a little bit about the alternative way of becoming a teacher, and then we can have questions about how to monitor and help teachers get better. That's certainly my area. So maybe 2 discussions today,
Yes,
if that's okay.
Very good. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's and maybe we can do the alternative one first, and then we can talk about teacher supervision, because I understand what their concerns are.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
It really goes with what their concern is. They heard the teacher training component comes back to the type of people that you're hiring to become teachers, and we have an alternative way to get different types of people to become teachers. Can you explain that? That's what we want to talk about first. That you want to find out about how to correct teachers and how to hold them accountable. We have different ideas on what types of people become teachers.
Yes, I can understand that. 就是说，他说你们好像重点是断在，就是说你们就是招了一些人以外，然后怎么样通过他的培训，通过你们的合理的培训管理，然后使他成为一个更合格、更好的老师。那么McCollough先生呢，他说他现在要说的下面接下来要说的这个主要问题，第一个问题，他主要的是想跟大家分享，就是怎么去选择一个人，就是在培训之前就先选择最适合当老师的那批人。
It's really our belief that it's better to get professionals in other fields to come in and become teachers instead of training kids to become teachers. We believe it's better to get engineers and scientists and nurses to become teachers. That's the difference between what we want to talk about and what the university. Who would you rather teach science? Someone who has been a scientist or worked in a lab, or someone who's been trained to become a science teacher? Our belief is you want people with practical experiences to be teachers.
OK， 就是如果比较这2个人，一个人他本来是一个科学家，他本来是在那个实验室工作的，然后后来呢，就是经过他们的一定的训练，让他走上教育岗位，成为一个老师。还有一个是本来就是按照一个自然科学老师这个目的去训练的。像这2者比起来，他们认为有一些实际经验，从那个实际工作岗位上走过来，当老师的是更好的。
And it's very different in America because they feel that a university education is enough to train teachers. We don't think it's enough. You should have professionals and then train them to become teachers. Now, you want to talk about that?
There are many alternative approaches to becoming a teacher, not simply bachelor's degree or master's degree.
就有很多办法可以成为老师，并不是说你要拿一个教育的学士学位或者硕士学位才可以当老师。
There are government programs.
有政府的那些类似的项目。
There are for-profit programs, so companies.
OK， 就是那种盈利性公司的那种组织来进行培养的老师。
Our program is a non-profit program, so not a business.
OK， 那么他们的这个委员会呢，他们是属于一种非盈利性的组织，选拔老师的方式。
The goal of the program is to help communities grow their own teachers, to build their own teachers.
那么他们这个项目的主要目的呢，就是帮助社区去培养他们自己的老师，让普通人成为合格的老师，这样子。
So number one, you have to think of the obstacles of this situation. The obstacles being, can they afford school? So most can't afford school. Time. Do they have time in their schedules?
所以我们要考虑这个项目的可行性，首先要考虑它的就是有没有足够的资金，然后有没有足够的时间。
And then schedule, meaning they may have time, but it may not be the same time as the classes are scheduled.
OK， 就是还有就是那个时间表、时间设置的问题，比如说他可能有时间，但是和学校班级课程设置的时间不相吻合。
So our program was developed with no classroom.
所以我们的这个项目最开始的时候是没有教室的。它的问题在于是没有教室的。于是呢
Online.
于是呢就进行网上的教学。
That way you can do it when you want to study and how you want to study. So we don't have grades in our program either. No.
然后我们的项目里也是没有学分的。
The fundamental decision maker of whether or not you are capable of teaching is a series of exams.
Okay.
So basically, instead of having a program where we measure along the program, there is 2 exams. If you prove you can be a teacher with these exams, you should be able to be a teacher.
OK， 就是说他们也没有学分什么的，就是决定你是否可以当老师的最关键的因素，就是在于考试成绩。他们这个项目有2次考试，就这个考试的分数决定你可不可以成为一名老师。
I mean, in China, to become a teacher, do you study at the university teaching strategies, or do you study to become an expert in science, an expert in in history, English, in language?
I will ask them later, but in my memory, most of them are graduated from it's called a normal university. Yes, teachers university actually, teachers college and teachers university. And in recent years, some people will change their career field into teaching, but most of them are graduated
from a teacher's
teacher school, yeah. OK， 就是那个他就是说，在中国的话，那个老师是主要是从哪里？他就问我们从哪里来？是师范大学还是其他领域过来的？
What is it?
They said the elementary school teacher and the secondary school teacher are most of them are from the normal university, normal college, but some professionals were teaching in universities.
See, that's where we think that things should be different here in America. That people who have careers, already professional careers, would be the best teachers in elementary and secondary, because they have experiences that somebody prepared in a normal university don't have. And we try to make it easier for people who are working in other fields. Let's say you're a nurse or you're an accountant. We make it easier for them to change and become teachers, where they don't have to go back to the university. They come to the American board, and we help them go become teachers faster than going back to university. How many of you headmasters would like to have teachers in your schools that were older and more mature and had different professions, as opposed to a child coming out of
对啊，就这一点，我们更需要就是说一种教学的经验。
教学的经验。
教学的经验。
One thing here concerned most is the teaching experience.
Yes. The teacher experience, like
teaching experience, yes.
pedagogy.
They like more mature or pro-mature or more maybe older people, but they focus on the teaching experiences.
The pedagogy, the teaching skills,
Yes.
not the content, but the teaching skills.
就说他问你们是不是更
Classroom management.
就是他们说你们是不是更看重就是那个他们教学的那些技巧，而不是其他方面专业的内容。
教学的技巧。
Yes.
所以师
Yes,
范
it's
生
about
We-
teaching skills.
We agree too.
Yeah, we agree. That's, as a former headmaster, I've run schools. It's very important to have the teaching skills and the classroom management.
就是说我以前就是曾经是一个校长，所以我知道这些是非常重要的。就是我也是希望有一个非常有教学技巧，并且会控制教室气氛的这个老师出现。
But what I found is, as a headmaster, I can prepare them with those, but I can't prepare them with strong engineering experiences, strong biochemical experiences. Can you explain that?
Yes, I can explain that. Yes， 就是他说那个，但是他发现一个问题，就是他作为一个校长，他可以帮一个就比如说还没有那么教学经验的人来帮他加深他的教学经验，然后帮这个人去控制他的教室，可以教他怎么培训他控制他的教室，但是他很难就是把比如说工程方面的经历，然后生物科学方面的经历去教给一个老师，这个是他没有办法教的。
It's easier for me to explain how to use good strategies or how to manage a classroom than to know complex math or complex science.
OK， 那么就是对他来说，就是一些教室里面的控制和技巧，由他来解释是很容易的一件事情。但是像一些很复杂的数学问题什么的，他是没有办法解释。
As a headmaster, I can't be an expert in all of the different content areas, but I can be an expert in classroom management and instructional. It's easier for us to find very smart people who are not teachers, who live in a particular town or province, so we don't have to bring people from university to that town. We look at the local community and say, you're an expert in math, you're an expert in science, we want to help you become a teacher.
OK。
在当老师之前呢，他的专业知识是首先经过培训的。我们现在说，一个是专业知识，一个是老师的技巧，他是把这两个分开去说的。你说专业是他认为说一个，比如说我们数学老师是有专门的数学，是先对你专业进行培训，你的专业知识已经具备了当老师的资格，然后再提到他当老师的技巧，这是两方面的东西。所以他跟我们讲，他讲
的是另外一回事，就是在他在某一个领域已经工作很多年，然后有经验了，然后再。
他比如说我需要数学老师，我就把我的数学专业的人来教，他这其实我们在我们国家不存在的嘛。这跟我们有差别。这我们的专业他已经是先培养的，我们绝不能让他。
Can you tell them that I have hired and I've supervised thousands of teachers, and I've had some good that went through the university, some that came from professional careers, and there's not one that's right over the other in my experience. But I've had people successful in both.
OK， 他就是说他直接教授的那种教育专业的成为老师和招收那个就是就招收就是已经有他们自己的职业，在他们自己领域有所建树的老师，就是说他这方面都招过老师，都成千上百的老师都招过，他就说这里没有什么对或错，这里面都有好老师。
I fired a teacher from Columbia Teachers College.
他说他曾经解雇过哥伦比亚那个教师学校的。
And in her place, I hired somebody from the local community who had gone to a much smaller university and who had been an engineer, and I hired that person instead of her.
OK， 那么他就是为了顶替这个人的位置呢，他所雇佣的这个老师是去了一个比哥伦比亚大学小得多的学校，就曾经当一个工程师的一个人来顶替他的位置。
There's no one.
Yeah, I know, I understand it, but I want to translate what they're saying for you. They're saying about under China's current policy, it is very difficult to have the natural professionals become the teacher.
It's the same here. It was very difficult here.
The
American board is the only organization in the entire country that does this.
麦克利先生他说，在美国也是非常难的。他们 American Board 就这个委员会是全国范围内唯一的一家，就是在进行这个工程的。
And it's taken 10 years and millions of dollars to change the legislation so that the American board can get those experts into American classrooms. The only organization there's no one answer for everything. But what the American board has fought for is to give headmasters the opportunity to decide, do I want a professional or do I want a university teacher? It's an exciting time because we are putting authority in the hands of headmasters, the experts, and what headmasters should be decided at, not bureaucrats, not politicians. That they need to decide on what's best for their students.
OK，就。
So the question I would like to ask is, when can you hire a professional? He said it's hard, but when can you?
They're talking about there are 2 points in the conversation. The first is different schools will make different choices. Because there are some normal high school who want to teach students to give the access to the universities to higher education. And at that time, this kind of school, they still want the teachers from universities. About the vocational, to do the vocation practice, this kind of high school and this kind of let's call it college. It's not very exactly in the American system. This kind of school wants the professionals to be the teacher, and actually there are many professionals being teachers because the professionals can earn much higher salary than teachers. Yeah.
Same with us. Same with us.
And here's another point, because in history, you know you should know the Chinese Cultural Revolution. That during that 10 years, there is not enough for university students to graduate from education major also. So they hire just after that they hire a lot of professionals to become teachers in the schools, and some of them are very good, but some of them are just not like teachers.
And this is why the American Board exists as a company, is to give standardization to that, is to train all those people so they're qualified to teach, not just taking the professional class.
这个方向，
这个梁老师的意思是他培养的方法好，
就是就主要来说。
第二个呢，
你们一个一个说。
就是你刚说这梁老师，一个呢是你们这个机构培养的老师，这半路出家的人哈，培养得很好，这是一个很好的方法，这个是我们没有否定它。但是因为你现在要我们选择是刚毕业的还是这个半路出家的人，我们都很难说。说道理呢，这个半路出家人也有很精明，很快就学会做老师的，也有学不会的。那我就好像他开除一个这个师范毕业的人家，你不能叫一表太全，你要把这个说两个回事。
There are 3 important points in their translation. The first is they think that you transforming the senior professionals with many experiences into a teacher is a very good way. But it is cannot simply say which they can choose, because they must see the concrete people, the person face in face, and they can know which should be a teacher. Maybe somebody they're just not suitable for being a teacher. This is the first thing, and the second thing is before a person becomes the formal teacher, they must experience, for example, 1-year internship. In China, yes, they must have this. Yes, this kind. Yeah, they say this kind of thing. Yes, later normal person become a teacher. That's a similar thing. Yes, the second point. And the third point is under China's policy, there are many demands for a person to become a teacher. For example, you must have some degree, and you must pass some examination, and all those are national level. Yes, national level. So it is very hard to change this big thing, because in China, maybe in US, maybe you can change the policies in state, in district, and it's much easier than changing the federal level law, right? So in China, it's the national level, all the national level. So maybe Steve Jobs is very great, and he can be a normal professor in Chinese, but in China universities, but he cannot become the formal professor in China because he doesn't have the degree.
So that is where we started 10 years ago.
Okay.
10 years ago, we were in the same place. You can't become a teacher unless you have this license.
Okay.
And while, yes, you can change it on the district and state level, the American Board was transformed on the federal level, on the national level.
Okay.
It was a revolutionary, transformative moment for the country, and the ability for us to change the way to, like you said, must have a degree, an expertise. But this degree in our program doesn't have to be a teaching degree. It has to just be a degree in the subject, not in the subject, in a subject.
In their subject, yeah.
Not necessarily all.
Okay, gotcha.
Second, our exams that we created we spent $20 million to create the exams, exceed the requirements and the rigor of the current U.S. national exam.
Okay.
Okay? So these two things. And the third thing, they must pass a background check to prove that they are.
Oh, yeah.
That's aside. But these two are important. That they must have a bachelor's degree in any subject.
Okay.
And then second, pass our exams, not just the national exams, but our exams which are significantly harder.
Okay. Okay.
That's how we were able to convince the legislators, the politicians, to make the idea of the change.
No internship.
No
Because we
internship.
felt it was, if these people could do these things, why have an internship? They can go right into the classroom and we can monitor their progress as they go ahead and start teaching.
Let me explain. Our research showed that basically the success of a teacher is determined in their first year of teaching, not student teaching. So if a good headmaster is able to nurture their teacher, regardless of the program they came from, that teacher will become a good teacher.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's mentorship as the teacher, not an internship or student teaching. So this one, and this one together are the pieces that ensure that the professional will be a good teacher. So, is there a shortage of quality teachers in China right now?
现在就是中国老师短缺吗？
优秀的缺，
There are shortage of excellent teacher, and especially in the rural area.
So, there's a shortage in rural areas, right? Is that what you said?
Yes, yes.
We have the same problem, and that's why we geared our focus to the rural areas.
Oh.
Okay, and that's why it has to be something that is online. What I wrote before, it must be online because these people can't get to a university.
Yes.
So it's online training, not university-based training.
Okay.
By making it online, both from a delivery and a receiving standpoint, that's why it can be faster to get them finished, cheaper from the delivery, and then easier for them to get to. So our programs are basically able to be accessed by people in very rural areas, and they're able to get certified with their very difficult exams and be able to present something so that they're qualified. Because we talked earlier about whether or not they're qualified. People in very rural areas are able to qualify themselves to become teachers without having partnerships with the delegation from India to do the same thing, where they have very rural areas, very urban areas, but only the urban areas are getting the good teachers. So we're starting a partnership with this delegation from India to use our methodology to be able to train their teachers.
Is every teacher in America should pass the exams and have these conditions like your teachers?
The traditional teacher must go through the university, pass the praxis, which is kind of like a national exam, but it's dependent on states. So there is a standard examination process. For us to have a process that all states could use, our exam had to be more rigorous, more difficult than that exam.
Then how many states are using this system?
We currently have 11 states of the 50 states. But the big difference is this. Once they finish, they have the same license as any other teacher. Once they finish, they can go to any of the 50 states.
Oh, 50 or 11?
So we have 11 states that use our program to make teachers.
Okay.
But once they're made, they're no different than any other teacher. They can go teach in other states.
In other states. Oh, okay. So it's probably not, but
Sure.
Professor, in this morning, he said before it was very hard for a teacher because he or she cannot move freely from one state to another state because we cannot. So, but you said the teacher's license can be.
That is correct. In previous times, to go from one state to the other, the states had to have rules where they would match up whether or not they had the equal amount of training. The reason that we were formed, the American Board, as a national test was that these exams that we created, so if this is our exams, every state is a subset of our exams, the standards.
But in the tradition, I just asked you in the tradition which kind of exam they should pass, and you said they can pass the exams organized by the state and have a university major in education, this kind of thing, and they will have the teacher's license. And you said the teacher's license can be contested by every state. So
not every state, but most states. So let me try to explain.
okay.
In the U.S., if you have a license from, say, Maryland,
Okay.
the state here,
Uh-huh.
Maryland will have agreements with other states saying, if we bring my teacher to Pennsylvania, let's say,
Uh-huh.
the universities in Maryland, universities in Pennsylvania are about equal, so I will allow that teacher to come to my state. So there are agreements with all the states. So
It's not difficult. I have licenses in 3 different states. One education, but 3 licenses in different states. So I don't know what the professor was saying. It's very easy to move from state to state in the United States.
you might need to take a few more requirements when you get there, like their constitutional law or that type of thing. But
Okay.
you can move from state to state. You can't just walk in and say, I need a job. You need to go to that state government and request their license. And they will respect yours. Oh, you have a license. I will give you ours also.
Okay, but are the teacher's license issued by you the same with all the states?
So, a Florida state license through traditional route equals to a Florida license through American Board. It's the same piece of paper.
Okay.
The difference is the American Board cross state boundaries. If you go the traditional route, you
Okay, but
start at the state
so
level.
it means in one state you provide the same license with the state with the license issued by that state government, but in another it's another kind
Correct.
of license. Oh,
So-
okay, got it.
In 11 states, the American Board is an official route to their license. So we take the place of the college. They go to the state office and get the same piece of paper that you would if you come to the route.
Okay, so you can do all the 50 states license.
You can theoretically do all the 50 states license if you get one license and then go.
Amy, can you just tell them that the information they received this morning is inaccurate? That I have licenses in 3 states and I only have 1 education.
Okay.
That each state is willing to let you come and practice. It's not very difficult.
Okay. Okay. She's asking about if you have issued the teacher's license by your government, do we have it to examine maybe several years, every several years, or it should be the lifetime?
Depends on the state. Depending on the state. There are some states that have lifetime license. There's some states that have a 5-year license with continuing education.
OK， 这个州和州还是不一样的，就是说有的它是终身的，有的就可能6、5年这样。
This is the diagram for our discussion previously to now. You can go through the American Board or a university. Once you finish this program, you apply with the government to get a license. So it doesn't matter who you come from to get a license.
Oh, OK。
And then the license can be traded when you go to another state to get their license.
Maybe have exchanges or
Exactly.
something. Gotcha. 所以说它这个就用这个图表来总结了我们刚才。
It's something that is very different than most other countries can start. we understand that.
OK， 就我们正在进行的这个项目，然后正在开始的这个新概念，对于其他国家来说可能是更难实行的，这个我们都很理解。
We are starting in India to be an experiment to start to make these types of changes.
OK， 就是我们刚刚和印度合作，就是让印度开始就是进行这方面的教师培训实验。
But as they expressed, there is a need in rural areas to get higher quality teachers, and this becomes a very interesting approach as a suggestion for how to evolve. It took us 10 years to get here, but this may be the first step in a discussion towards that direction.
OK， 就是说，他们就用了10年的功夫才走到这一步，然后现在他们就和印度合作，也确实让他们得到了就是在农村地区的很多比较高水准的老师。
And I think coming back to the main concern by the headmasters was content or getting a university education in teaching, classroom management. The American board that's what our specialty is, helping close that gap, helping the people who don't have a traditional university education to utilize both their practical, mature experiences and also give them the teaching experiences that they need.
OK， 就是McCollough先生他就又强调了一遍，就是说，相比较传统的，就是你必须有教育学的大学方面的训练的那个，才能成为老师以外，就是 American law 它就更加侧重于就是你不仅可以使用大学，而且就是如果你没有经过大学教育学位的训练的话，那么你可以用你的专业知识和你的成熟的个性等等，使你作为成为一个老师。
Our specialty is helping mature professionals get trained so they have the knowledge to become teachers faster than going back to university.
OK， 这样，他就说，所以他们的特别之处就是，让那种已经有非常丰富的专业知识的人，给他们一些培训，让他们很快的成为一个老师，而不用再到教育类的大学里面去重新回炉了。
I'd like to leave them with one statistic that might help them pull this together. In the U.S., the traditional method, teachers leave the profession, 50% of teachers leave the profession in 5 years. If they're fired
We have the data of 36%. It's more than, yeah.
It's over 5 years though, so
Yes.
it depends on how many years. 36 is probably over 3.
OK。
Okay, our statistic is 85% over 5 years.
Yeah.
Retention.
You have your own vocation, so you really want to become teacher, so you become teacher.
Exactly.
That's what makes the American board
So
Okay.
strong. Yes.
OK， got it。他就说，就是他们有一个统计数字，就会大概是